It's Wednesday morning, and it's time for our Allied Cooperative Program. And I have Isaac Brown. He's the Certified Energy Specialist with Allied Cooperative, working out of that Hickston office. Energy markets. There's been a lot of fluctuation lately. From your point of view, what are you seeing?
What we're seeing is a similar trend in the energy markets, kind of following those large indices like the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, and the Dow Jones, where we've seen sell-offs of greater than 10%, kind of in reflection of those tariffs that are kind of broad and sweeping across the globe, specifically on China. Has been a major one. So kind of what we're looking at mostly is how much demand that threatens. So if global markets are falling, consumer sentiment is typically dropping, kind of gives you a recessionary feel. Whether that's right or wrong kind of remains to be seen, because these tariffs, they could lift at any time. They could change. They seem to change minute by minute now rather than day by day or month by month. Basically, with those crude oil markets dropping now down to about $61 a barrel, it could be up just a little bit now as some of those major marketers re-enter the market a little bit, after those big Thursday and Friday sell-offs last week. We've seen a small recoup here, but basically, it's a pretty good time to potentially look at getting those tanks filled up, especially if you're on the farm. Diesel fuel has hit lows that date back to early December of 2024, so good opportunity to get ready, get those inputs prepared for what's going to be, an interesting spring here whenever it comes. I know we've been getting some cool days, but it looks like warmer ones are ahead of us. So definitely reach out and get those tanks filled up while we get a little bit of price relief. We've seen about 20, 30, maybe even 35 cents worth of drop here. So it's a good opportunity.
And you brought up those crude barrel prices, the oil prices, down to right around that $61 mark. What about the supplies and the demand for that? Are we able to meet the demand? Are we having more producers come online again, so there's more product out there? Is there anything else that's factoring into that price?
So as that price drops, typically the benchmark for U.S. crude producers is $60 a barrel is their break-even point. So whenever we see crude start dropping near that $60 a barrel, you're not going to see many producers open a new well. They're basically going to run the wells dry that they have, basically pump what they can, and, with a lot of those economic reports coming out that maybe it's going to be a slower demand year for crude, it starts to put some stress on that market too. The other huge factor that comes in when U.S. oil producers start to feel a little bit of the strain of a lower crude barrel is the fact that OPEC, mainly over in Saudi Arabia and the Middle East, they can produce a barrel of crude for about $40. So what they're doing right now is they actually ramped up production by triple the original report. So they're putting additional pressure on crude oil, and we're going to see them really work on flooding the market to try to drive out American crude producers and basically take global control again of that market, which could impact prices to go maybe even slightly lower. So we'll kind of have to see how that goes. I know there's a lot of negotiations going on, but that's kind of the big impacts are tariffs, number one, trade war, potential slowing of the economic growth, and large builds in crude inventories from those OPEC nations that can probably produce a cheaper barrel of crude.
And talking about that inventory, now is a good time to maybe stock up. Who should we be reaching out to?
I think we're one of the best options to, if not the best, to get your barrels filled. So definitely reach out to us. We're in the Hickston office, we're in Marshfield, we're in West Salem, Toma, Adams, Wisconsin, you name it. So Allied has a broad swath and good coverage with our fuel drivers.
Filling up those fuel tanks for the spring and getting the reason why the prices are the way they are. With Isaac Brown, he's the certified energy specialist with Allied Cooperative, working out of that Hickston office. And I'm Jill Welke.